Hi there, is that social worker called Sandra Lisnit Masawi, and welcome to I Am, the Monologue. We're going to start off with a quote from a former Roman emperor by the name Marcus Aurelius. He said, "Reject your sense of injury and the injury itself disappears." Now that got me thinking, how have we been approaching this whole women's empowerment discourse? Now, to be fair, for the longest time, women have been defined through their ability to marry and to have children. And they have unjustly been kept away from other productive activities in society. And regardless of the many initiatives and campaigns that have been done to empower women, to make them participate more, to get their voices heard, there is still that sense of injury. And rightly so. But I also think it's time for us to move on now. Not to say that we are downplaying the damage, but to say, let's move on from this. Maybe if we reject our sense of injury, we can get to explore more. I say this because over the years that I've been working in development work in Zimbabwe, I've come across women who actually sabotage themselves. And that comes from that feeling to say, well, this world is unfair towards women. And yes, it is. And it might probably go on for centuries. But what do we do about it now? How do we live our lives now? How do we become productive in that situation? How do we then give birth to other projects, regardless of the environment that we are in? I would like also to share a story from the Bible. There's this woman called Ruth. I get fascinated every time I read about Ruth. Now, Ruth is a widow. She is broke. Sis has got nothing. She doesn't have a husband to count on. She doesn't have nothing. She doesn't even have children. And she finds herself with this situation, and now she needs to make a decision that will change her life. She doesn't sit down to cry and lament over how unfair things are. She doesn't go over the things that are not right. But she makes a decision to say, I'm going to follow Naomi. I'm going to see what life has for me ahead. So she clings to this other woman who is also a widow, who is also childless. And then these two women make the most important decision of their lives, to move out of a barren land, a place that was no longer serving their needs, and find life somewhere else. Now, Ruth says something that is very profound. She says to Naomi, I'm going to be with you, and your people are going to be my people, and your God is going to be my God. Now, I know we know these words from weddings where a woman is saying, or probably a man, I don't know, exchanging vows, like in the marriage setup. But the next time you hear these words, I want you to remember that they were said by a broken woman to another broken woman as they were making a change in their lives. So these two women hold hands. They go into an unknown future, trying to see what the future holds for them. The injury is there, but they rejected listening to that. And I know for most of us as women, we complain. We complain a lot. And with the empowerment discourse, some of us actually lie back and we say, that is my right. It should be done for me. It should be brought towards me. But to be honest, nothing like that ever is going to happen. You have got to take your life as a bull by the horns. You have got to dictate where your life is going. You have got to dictate the next steps of your life. That is not easy. I know. It's not easy. Especially for women who may have gone through abuse, for women who may have gone through really traumatic events. But I'm saying if you continue holding on to the injury, it's not going to serve you. On one side, we do have women who self-sabotage. And then on the other, I think one thing that I have noticed to be an enabler is those women's empowerment campaigns that make it a point to paint the image of a woman as a victim and men as always the perpetrator. Now, I don't know, maybe you're not familiar with it, but where I come from, we do have those. We have campaigns that go on and on, stressing how women are always victims in need of saving, how men are evil, how they are destroying women's lives. And to be fair, I cannot acquit the injustices carried out by men simply by saying women also have a role. But if we are truly to bring about change, I think we also need to question the self-defeating mindset that are inherent in some women as core demobilizers for their progress. You will have a woman living a life that is reckless, living a life that is directionless, and then we blame it on the men. I don't think that's fair. Honestly, I do not think that is fair. I think as women, we also ought to be accountable for the actions, our inactions, as well as the consequences that come with it. I'll give you a quick example from the book I Am. So there's this character, Tamara. She was in a relationship with her boyfriend and then they broke up, but she didn't take the breakup quite okay. And then from there, she developed a negative dating pattern. She was jumping from man to man, trying to fill up a void that she was supposed to work on by herself. So you will find that when you get to talk to Tamara, she will tell you that men are dogs. Men are evil. They are treating her in a bad way. They might, but in this case, Tamara also was not treating herself well. She did not give herself time to heal. She did not give herself time to pursue wholeness, but instead, she was jumping from relationship to relationship, putting herself on clearance sale, just as a way to fill in a void that she was feeling. So in that case, you cannot therefore come in to blame solely the man for the abuse in that relationship, because she stayed no matter how toxic it was. She was making that decision. It was an emotional crutch. She did not take the initiative to address the situation and the issues that were in her life, the underlying trauma and everything else that was going on in her life. But she chose to get this man to fix her mess for her. You can get that more. You can get more of that in the book. But what I'm trying to say here is, if we ever are going to truly empower women, that empowerment comes from within. It comes from knowing who you are. It comes from having the ability to define yourself, to define who you are, what you want for your life, and setting goals for your life. I know we have been socialized into thinking that men will come and fix our lives, but going back to the story of Ruth, all the men in their lives had to die. I'm not saying God allowed them to die, but I'm just saying they were completely out of the picture. They were out of the picture. Neither Naomi or Ruth had a husband or son. Naomi actually says, even if I was to get pregnant today, that child would not grow up to be able to protect you. So sometimes I think before we as women put on the burden of our lives on men, we need to really carry it. We need to carry the burden of our lives. If it's joy, am I joyful by myself? Am I able to make myself joyful? Am I able to give myself that which I expect another person to also add into my life? Am I able to sustain this kind of lifestyle that I expect somebody else to come and sustain? So every moment I go back to Ruth, Boaz came in, but she had already set her life in track. Boaz na Ruth avana kusangana Ruth ari ku Moab. She took the journey from Moab She took the initiative to go look for work, and she was working without expecting favors. Imagine, she was a foreigner coming from a cursed land. She was also barren, by the way, because she had been married for over 10 years and had not managed to get to have a child. So in those days, it was really important for a woman to bear children. It still is, even now. It still is. But my point is, she had the agency to put her life in order. She had the agency to make sure that she set her life in a way that she wanted, the way that she expected. So I am leaving a question with you. Are you waiting for a man to come and fix your life? Or are you ready to fix your life? And are the troubles in your life prevailing, or the storms in your life coming from a man, or actually they are coming from you? You just don't want to point that finger directly at yourself and really solve that issue. I don't know. You think about it.